What happens when we stop looking to fix, when we stop looking back for answers? And we start instead meeting ourselves as we are right now, already whole, already creating, because we know that. Right? We don't all of a sudden heal ourselves and then we create. We're creating all the time. We are creating on autopilot, either consciously or unconsciously. So we're already in motion. And you are not going to create the life that you want, the vision that you have, the vision that your soul's trying to communicate to you at the moment through your desires. You're not going to create it from a place. So we can try to convince the universe that we're working with, this co-creative energy. We can try and convince it all that we want with words, with affirmations, with journaling. But what the universe is going to look for always is, what's the tone underneath it? What's the energetic tone? Because that is the signature that is literally printing out your reality. That's what you're signing off on. It's your energetic resonance. Hello, beautiful soul. Thank you for being here. Welcome back to the Abundance Club podcast. I am your host, Amy Wilkinson, and I love that you are here listening to this. This week, I've been really feeling into this energy of solidifying, of anchoring, of grounding, and I wanted to come through with a really grounded podcast. I think when we speak in the manifestation and the spirituality space, this is a spiritual podcast. I'm very aware that some of the concepts can seem lofty and really expansive and exciting. Like there's often a resonance with our soul. But at the same time, unless we know how to work with that energy, unless we know how to ground it and to have an embodied experience of it in our own life, it can stay up as a concept. It can stay up as a nice, inspiring idea. So I'm really mindful about ensuring that what comes through is inspiring, but also grounding. So I really wanted to bring that through, and we're supported with the energies right now to really start to question in our lives, okay, what am I being guided towards? What is it that's not just a nice idea, that's not a far off dream, but how can I really ground my vision into reality? How can I really have the big picture, expansive, exciting vision and start to actually take the steps towards it and use these tools of manifestation, work with the laws of the universe, understand about identity, evolution, and quantum shifting, and all of these wonderful, exciting concepts. How can I work with that? This podcast episode is going to help you. I really want to talk today about shifting from this energy of improving into arriving and allowing, right? How is that for grounded energy? Arriving and allowing. So I have been in the, let's say, personal development space arena, for want of a better word, for all of my adult life. Like as soon as I left school, I went into studying international business, but I went into my first job, like a real job. Other than that, I have worked completely for myself as an entrepreneur, was with a spiritual magazine. So I was straight into like the personal development, self-improvement, new age space. So I can really speak to this space. And a lot of it is built around self-improvement, becoming better, healing, fixing, and evolving. And like I've been there, done it all. I love all of the modalities. There is incredible value, and it's such a gift to have these modalities. But what I want to speak to is a patterning, something that I have been noticing more deeply. And I believe this is going to support you on your manifestation journey. Okay, so when we are constantly orientating ourselves towards improvement and improving ourselves, one of the things that we do need to be aware of, that I've become acutely aware of, is that there can be this subtle undertone or this underlying belief that something's wrong with us, that something needs to be improved, that we're not yet enough, that we need to do something to become someone else or to become whole. And I just want you to invite you to feel into the language of that, feel into the tone of that for a moment. Because we create in this world in terms of frequency. That's the language of the universe. Right? It's not in words. It's not in the pictures on a vision board. It's purely energetic resonance, energetic coherence. Like that's how we create. So we can try to convince the universe that we're working with, this co creative energy. We can try and convince it all that we want with words, with affirmations, with journaling. But what the universe is going to look for always is what's the tone underneath it? What's the energetic tone? Because that is the signature that is literally printing out your reality. That's what you're signing off on. It's your energetic resonance. So there's a very specific frequency of lack and incompleteness in what I referred to, right? When we're searching for ways to improve ourselves. And from that state, we can start relating to life through fixing, through a not enough energy. When we're in that, what can tend to happen, and I'll get to why I really want to speak to that, is we start looking for blocks. We start looking for answers in the past, right? And the reason that I'm speaking to this is I noticed this so much in sessions with clients. I noticed this in people in my community. I've noticed this within myself. We look like our brain is wired to make meaning out of things. So we look for reasons why we might be in a certain situation or why we are creating a certain situation. Like we love to blame ourselves. We look for things why things aren't working yet, why the manifestation isn't here. What I've come to see is whatever we are continually placing our attention on, we are deepening our identification with it, right? We become that which we focus on. Plain and simple. We become that which we identify with. So we create through our beingness. We manifest through our becoming. Not what we want, not what we hope, not what all of the things are just things and tools, but essentially it's through our resonance, our beingness. So if our attention is constantly on what needs to be healed now, what needs to be improved, we can unintentionally keep reinforcing a version of ourselves that's still on the way, right? That's not quite there yet. And I see this so often in what keeps people in this space or gap, not quite where they want to be, because deep down, they don't quite believe that they're there yet, that they're ready yet. There's more to heal, there's more to fix, they're not enough, they're blocked. And I say this with so much love and respect because I've lived here as well. And there is a part of us that does get really, really comfortable with staying in the healing. You know, I was a yoga teacher for 15 years and I could see the way that in our patterning, we got so comfortable with doing the same thing and going over and over and feeling like we needed to do more and be more. So, in exploring this and in doing all of the different healing work and in looking to the past, I've tried to understand the patterns and there is value in that, but there becomes a point where something begins to shift where we stop asking. And this is a really important shift when we stop asking what needs fixing in me, what needs improving, and we start asking something very different. We start coming back into presence. We start letting all of that go and drop away. And we come into the now and we come into soul. And I want to start by going straight into this, straight into soul, because this is what I see often gets left out in all of this, even when spirituality is present as a concept. but it's not actually embodied soul coherence. And in all of the work that I do with clients, in my client sessions and in all my programs, we can't go anywhere else without first coming back home into who we are, into the truth of who we are, into our soul essence and our soul self. I speak about this a lot. That's because it is important. And it's a shortcut. We don't have to keep going back and doing all of this fixing and healing and going over and trying to improve. I want to speak to that because our soul isn't something that we become. Our soul is who we are, who we allow ourselves to be when we're no longer fragmented by this idea or this story of needing to be fixed. It's who we are when we actually dissolve the limitations that we are keeping alive, and we're keeping it alive through our attention. And I always say our attention is our currency. So the invitation that I want to bring into this conversation is what happens when we stop looking to fix, when we stop looking back for answers. And we start instead meeting ourselves as we are right now, already whole, already creating, because we know that. Right? We don't all of a sudden heal ourselves and then we create. We're creating all the time. We are creating on autopilot, either consciously or unconsciously. So we're already in motion. And you are not going to create the life that you want, the vision that you have, the vision that your soul's trying to communicate to you at the moment through your desires. You're not going to create it from a place of lack. You're only going to create that from wholeness, from the truth of who you are, from living that and embodying that, because that, my friends, is your golden ticket. That is your magnetism. And it's a false belief, it's a lie that says we're not already that we're not already whole, that somehow wholeness is a destination that we get to, that we become whole. And I think that that's a huge distortion that can subtly creep in to our psyche when we stay focused on the fixing and the improving. I was interviewed on a podcast the other day, and the first question that I was asked in the interview was, what do you think are people's biggest blocks to manifestation or blocks to living the life that they desire? And I said that they believe that they're blocked in the first place. Right? I want to talk about belief now because this part of it is really important. And then I want to get onto the blocks because there is so much power in our belief. Our beliefs literally create our reality. And most people think that we're just bound by our beliefs, that they're just there. We have them, we live by them. And that's like our beliefs can be changed, you guys. I think it was Henry Ford that had that famous quote, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. Whether you believe you can, because belief is just a thought that we've thought over and over and over and over again until it solidifies in our consciousness as a belief. And many of them are limiting beliefs. So many of us hold a certain belief that we are blocked. I see it. I see it all the time. Or that there's something wrong with us. And so when we do that, we're identifying with our limitations. We're identifying with the part of us that believes that we are separate. That's not our soul. So that's the first indication that we are not truly aligning with our soul. Because there are no blocks in our soul. There are no blocks in who we truly are. And who you truly are is a divine, limitless soul being. Your energy, pure potentiality. So, in that truth, when you come back to that truth, you're not blocked. There's only levels of identification that you have created that make you feel separate from your creative power. These are the illusions that we buy into, that we perpetuate, that we keep alive through our belief. The moment that that identification dissolves, so does the experience of being blocked. So does the experience of being limited. So a lot of the block clearing language can actually reinforce the very contraction that you're trying to resolve, which is why I don't love the word. So if we're talking about language, words that I love, block is not a word that I love. It's not a word that I use, right? So when we're identifying with our blocks and with our humanness, we're doing that rather than with our soul and with our potential and with our limitlessness and with our true creative and expressive power. And I speak about this a bit, but I truly believe that this is the highest calling of this time right now, with external authority no longer holding the truth for you that perhaps it once did. But now you might be looking around going, that doesn't feel right. Things aren't matching up. Okay, your own truth begins to feel incongruent with what you've been told by things and people and systems that are outside of you. And that distortion that you might be feeling, and many of you may have felt this around the COVID times, around 2020, like we have different waves of these things that are being revealed, right? These different waves of things coming up as they're designed to, because we are awakening, we're part of this great awakening process. That distortion then that you feel is information. It's here waking you up. It's meant to. And I believe the very first thing it's asking you to do is to remember who you are and to remind you of your inherent power to choose again. Choose a reality that feels good for you, that looks good for you. And I've been speaking about this lately with these kind of crumbling collapse that we're seeing of things around us and of systems and of people that we might have pedestaled. And I'm reminding you all the time that we get to choose. You get to choose the reality that you want to experience because your consciousness is that powerful. And if what you are seeing out there is not what you want to experience, you can change that, right? So things to ask yourself like, am I questioning my beliefs and others' belief? Like, is that true for me? Are you asking yourself, is that true? Does that feel true for me? And if it doesn't, we need to find that courage to choose again and to choose to align with and embody truth that feels good. So these kind of questions become a gateway back to your soul, back to your own inner authority that's asking to come alive in you right now, back to your soul truth, back to the fact that you are limitless potential. When you remind yourself of this, what happens is you begin to untether. And I love this word, untether. Right? I can just see like the threads where it's been tangled up, and you just start to pull out the threads where you have been tangled up in maybe distortion or in maybe a reality that you don't want to be a part of, that you don't want to identify with, and you get to choose that. You untether from the ways that you have been keeping yourself identified with a past version of you or with patterning or programming that you have outgrown. This is what becomes available when you remind yourself of this. What I'm not saying is that you need to go back and you need to fix this and you need to heal this, but instead, make the choice to align with your evolved identity, with your true identity now. Not when, and this is important, not when you have the evidence, not when something in your life changes, not when you have the money in the bank, not when you start to feel good enough, because that's all coming from limitation and personality. That's an old, outgrown personality and not enoughness. Instead, you lead, you as your soul. When we can merge our soul with our personality, that's when we tap into our true soul power. And keep an eye out, you guys. In fact, as soon as it comes available, I will pop the show notes. I will pop the link in the show notes. But I have a program coming up that is going to be focused so much around this for you. And it is called Soul Power. So I'm going to pop the link in the show notes as soon as that becomes available. But in the meantime, this is just a slight segue. If this is speaking to you, make sure you have registered for my free masterclass next Wednesday, the 29th of April. That's Australian Eastern Standard Time. I go so much deeper in my programs and in these offerings because you are a part of it. So we have this collective energy and you can be asking questions and you can be involved in the conversation. And I'm so excited. It's called Infinite Supply. Details are in the show notes for that as well. So click on the link. It's free to join, and I would love to see you there. So when you come back to your soul and you merge your personality with the soul, you lead, you become the change maker. You shift your frequency to choose who you want to be, how you want to feel, what you're available for. And when you do that, life reflects that. Your life will up level. So it's really important that we learn how to be able to release and let go of the ways that we have been limiting ourselves by believing old stories that are outdated. And I love when I do this work with clients in my one-to-one sessions because we can really start to, when you work with a coach or a mentor that can hold that space for you, what happens is your soul comes in and guides you. And your soul, your beautiful loving soul, and it's such a beautiful experience when this happens in the sessions, your soul is going to show you where you are still identifying with your limitation, where you are still choosing an outdated, outgrown identity, and therefore choosing the timeline that aligns with that. And when I see this happen in client sessions, it's that light bulb moment when you actually realize and remember that actually that's not true. Actually, I get to choose again. Actually, that's not mine. And the shift happens so quickly because in that moment, you dissolve your identification with that old timeline, the old reality that you no longer want to experience, and you open the space to anchor in the new. You give yourself the opportunity to align with the evolved version of you who is already there, who is already living that reality, who is already on that timeline, who already upholds a whole new set of beliefs and a whole new self-concept. And you get to know her and you become her or him. And you create from that place so magnetically. Like I love bringing people into their magnetism because it's not back there, it's not out in front, it's here right now. And that's the shift that changes everything. But when we don't know how to let go of these old stories or these old beliefs, or we believe that there's something wrong with us or there's something that we need to fix or improve, we energize a perceived gap between where we are and where we want to be. The work I do is we dissolve the gap, we clear the gap, we collapse the gap, we realize that there's not a gap. Right? So the thing about that is that we have to get our body on board. We have to get our nervous system on board because that perceived gap actually feels really safe and normal for our nervous system because that part of us does not want us to grow, does not want us to expand, does not want us to thrive in abundance. That aspect of us is here to keep us alive, and that's it, safe and alive. So it's going to do that by keeping on looping us back into what is familiar. It's why we love going over the old stories because it feels familiar. And so that familiarity feels good. It's like we prefer the familiar hell over the unfamiliar heaven. We don't want to venture out into the unknown. And this is why it's so important, you guys, that you work with a coach or a mentor or in a program that can support you to hold that vision of your dreams, to step courageously into the unknown, to work with your nervous system and shift your identity, because otherwise you can be listening to all the podcasts and reading all the books and doing the journaling work and saying 50,000 million affirmations in the mirror, and nothing changes and nothing shifts because your identity hasn't shifted. You're still the one in the in-between. You're still the one that doesn't feel safe in being who they are, in being visible, in using their voice. You're still the one that has these old beliefs. You're still the one that wants to stay in the same or thinks they need to keep improving themselves. I'm not quite there yet. I see this time and time and time again. So when we get this part of us on board and we work with our whole self and we teach ourselves that it's safe to thrive, that it's normal, we expand our capacity to receive abundance. We feel safe living as who we came here to be. We get to shift out of the old patterning and programming. But right now, there's a big part of your system that wants to stay there because it's known and safe and familiar. So, this work, you guys, in manifestation is like reverse engineering the process. First and foremost, you are a multidimensional being. We are in a paradigm now where you're being asked to remember that and utilize that more than you have ever before. This is why I've created Soul Power, because that's going to be a 3-month journey that we do together in evolving your identity, in becoming your most aligned, intuitive being, your highest authority, and becoming your most magnetic self. So, in this multidimensional nature, time is an illusion. All there is this eternal present moment now. So you don't have to wait. You can choose right now to live from the end state, like Neville Goddard would say. This isn't forcing or pretending or even acting, but it's attuning yourself. So attuning your vibration to a version of you that feels expansive, that feels limitless, that feels abundant. That's available to you right now without anything else in your life having to change. That is available to you right now. You can tap into that right now without anything else in your life having to change. You can dwell in that frequency. You can spend time embodying that tone that represents your highest alignment. And your highest alignment is bliss, it's love, it's joy. I created a yoga business and a yoga brand that was called Inner Bliss. Because right in the early days of my yoga journey, I read a passage that was like, your highest purpose is to discover your inner bliss. And I used to think, in the early days of studying yoga and teaching this, I used to think that that was an endpoint. When I did all the things and I mastered all the things. And a lot of that, those teachings can come through the yoga tradition. It's like when you get to this end tier, you experience samadhi, you experience enlightenment. It's something that you get to, it's that destination. Without realizing that it's actually here right now. It's actually here right now. And we are here as souls at this time to embody, to anchor heaven on earth, to live as heaven on earth. This is the new earth frequency that we are aligning with. So all of this is available to you right now by you dwelling in that frequency. And any perceived limitation gets to dissolve in that light. Your nervous system can settle into regulation. Your emotions can heighten. You can feel more congruent with who you want to be and how you want to feel, with the feelings that you want to experience. This is the work that we do. And it's a choice. When you align with your soul will always lead you to this place. And we hear a lot around, and I would speak to this as well, about shifting timelines. Shifting timelines is shifting identity. And your identity determines what reality feels available to you. So we're always going to be looking at, okay, what is my highest evolvement? What is my highest identity right now? So I want to I want to leave you with just a really simple process to kind of recap and put this all together and ground this as best as we can. Okay. Because I am very aware that I love the lofty concepts, that I will go as woo as I want to go, because that is my nature. But I also want to ground it for you. So, number one, notice what you desire. Your desires are led by your soul. Your true desires are led by your soul, not the ones that feel like they're conditional, not the ones that feel like you need them in order to feel enough, but the ones that are derived from your wholeness, the ones that don't leave you. You feel them, you know them, even if you don't know how. They are your signposts. And then number two, like, feel into the version of you where that already feels natural and available. When you start to do that, you begin to access that timeline. Number three here, you don't need to try to become through force. You don't need to try to go and fix the old identity. You don't need to try to search for ghosts of your past or for blocks. The beautiful thing when you say yes to your soul is that life is on your side. So life is going to show you. So if there's anything there that needs clearing or healing or attention, life is going to show you. Life is going to show you. It's going to show you in the now moment. And number four, and just on that point, it's often going to show you, and I think I spoke about this in the last podcast episode, so go back and have a listen if you haven't. It's often going to show you via the ways that you're being challenged, by the ways that you're being stretched, by the conflicts that might be coming up in the relationships. And that's when we flip the switch and see that, okay, this is life showing me, thank you, what a gift. Show me and reveal to me more light here. Show me how I can transmute this challenge into light. And then lastly, you just begin relaxing out the version of you, or untethering from the version of you that doesn't match it anymore, which means you take your energy out of it. You stop charging that. You stop feeding those thoughts. You stop believing those beliefs. You stop letting yourself getting pulled under by those old familiar emotions. And usually there's a thought underneath that emotion. You question it. You ask, is this true? I want to just finish here then by saying, like, the life that you truly desire is on the other side of you deciding what you're available for and ready to receive, and you investing in yourself, making the choice to prioritize yourself, not to fix, but to honor, to amplify, to become your highest self and your highest evolvement. And how do you know if you're ready? Like, start to ask yourself, am I available for this desired life? Am I available for this dream? Or am I still identified with a version of me where this feels far away? And maybe because to an aspect of me that feels safe and familiar. But what would it be like if I chose to embody that now? What it would be like if I chose to make the move now before I feel ready? What if I chose to take that leap now and trust that I'm the evidence, I'm not waiting for it? I want to leave you on that note, because when you shift your identity and you align with your limitless self, everything else reorganizes around that. Because life is always responding to who you're being, not what you are trying to get, not what you have on your list or on your vision board. It's pure soul embodiment. If you want to know more, or if you want a one-to-one session, details are in the show notes. Don't forget to click on the link for my free masterclass next Wednesday. I would love to see you there. It will be via Zoom. I believe I will also be streaming it via YouTube as well if you watch the podcast via YouTube. And I would love a small request, please, if you could share this episode with someone that you love. Please hit the subscribe and the follow button. If you could give us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or if you're watching this on YouTube, pop a comment into what really spoke to you, what resonated with you, because that's also a way that you can anchor in the shift. You can also do that on Spotify and comment below. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you again soon.